Welcome, one and all, to a little slice of Kevin. Well, I'm not sure about the name, but it has been given to me by my dad, who I don't know if I love it or if I hate it, but it is something, and you guys will have to let me know if you like it or not. I'm still kind of attached to yesterday, tomorrow with Kevin Davis. I don't know if my name really matters at all. It's not like I have any authority or much of experience, or I'm not that well read. I just have a lot of opinions and I like to talk. So that's why we're here. And I suppose that's why you're listening to me. Well, I guess that is your loss or gain, be it as it will. But again, yeah, I'm not an expert in pretty much anything. Am I an expert in anything? I don't know. I have to think about it. Um, anyway, this topic today about aliens and alien um, yeah, how they interact with us on Earth, and how even the conservative world is now buying into the whole alien invasion idea, or at least the idea that aliens exist and that there are different worlds and different universes and blah, 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 blah. My personal opinion, I think that's a great excuse to try to make the whole Big Bang, the whole evolutionary theory make sense, which to me it doesn't. Um, I'm not saying it's condemned. I know a lot of people always, get upset. Say the church, a Catholic priest came up with the Big Bang theory. Well, a Catholic priest could be wrong in that matter. Is a scientific matter. It's not like a Catholic priest is infallible on this topic. I think that Catholic priest, I forget his name, is wrong. Now, Pope Pius XII did say it is possible the Big Bang Theory is a possible way that the Earth was begun, as long as you believe that God, of course, was the one who created the Big Bang and then guided the evolution. Now, do I think that happened? No. I think that there's so many bigger leaps you have to reach when you believe in this theory of evolution than if you believe in creationism. Now, that's a whole nother topic. You can get into short Earth creationism, etc. But that's something that I'm not going to get into today, partly because I don't want to lose my head before my 35th birthday. But we do want to talk about aliens. And so this begins with a tweet from a guy that I actually respect. I know many of you don't. It's a guy that I followed for a long time. That is Mr. Matt Walsh. So Matt Walsh, yeah, he's a longtime blogger. He was a blogger back 10, 15 years ago now. I followed him that long. He's now, of course, with the Daily Wire, and he, produces public commentary. Produced a fantastic documentary called "What Is a Woman." I highly suggest you watch it, not because you're confused on the matter, but because he has a fantastic way of presenting the issue and showing how ridiculous the whole transgender topic is. Anyway, this is his take on the alien matter. Matt Walsh says intelligent officials now confirm that UFOs of quote unquote non-human origin have been recovered and studied. At this point, the only reason to discount these reports is your own preconceived belief that aliens can't exist. The evidence is really overwhelming now. The evidence. Now, I think that's pretty interesting because, well, the evidence based on what exactly? The evidence now being shared to us by the Air Force, by the CIA, I mean, by the powers that be that clearly want us to believe it. Now, I know that sounds like totally hogwash, conspiracy theorist, etc. So it's kind of a funny thing that you have like conspiracy theories going head to head against each other. Let's see which one wins. I don't really know. It's going to be interesting to find out. I am, as you guys know, pretty strong into conspiracy theories. In many cases, I've tried to temper myself a little bit in my wise old age. But this idea that we should just trust it because the government and the military says they've seen aliens. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. The government and the military also said that JFK was shot by one guy who somehow shot like 5 bullets within the matter of 7 seconds, and ridiculous. Come on, this idea that we should just trust it because it comes from the government or the military is kind of bizarre. And the fact that Matt Walsh is saying that, who is a pretty staunch quote unquote conservative, and who's very, very how do I say, he's very um leery. I mean, he considers these things pretty deeply. I'm pretty surprised that he takes this approach and saying that we should trust it because, well, there's so much evidence, and the evidence is, I don't know. Let's see. So the evidence we're taking from, let me see again, I'm going to share a screen again, from thedebrief.org, quoting from them, a former intelligence official turned whistleblower has given Congress and the intelligence community inspector general extensive classified information about deeply covert programs that he says possess retrieved, intact, and partially intact craft of non-human origin. The information, he says, has been illegally withheld from Congress, and he filed a complaint alleging that he suffers illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures, reported here for the first time. Other intelligence officials, both active and retired, with knowledge of these programs through their work in various agencies, have independently provided similar corroboration information, both on and off the record. Now, I honestly have never heard of thedebrief.org, so I'm a little surprised that Matt Walsh is sourcing from here. I don't know if they're honestly worthwhile or not. I know that's kind of hard to tell in today's day and age, that the mass media obviously is also not trustworthy. But, if it says thedebrief.org, or, I'm writing from my mama's basement.org, I don't really know to trust them or not. So is this information actually true? Maybe. I mean, there has been a lot of videos and whatnot coming out from supposedly serious sources, that again being the military, the Navy, the Air Force. Um, Again, do we believe that? Okay, maybe. Anyway, let's continue with the debrief.org. The whistleblower, David Charles Grush, 36, a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, is a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office. He served as the Reconnaissance Office's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 2021. Blah, 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 blah. He's a guy who works looking for aliens. The task force was established to investigate what were once called unidentified flying objects. Grush said the recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles have been made for decades to the present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. Analysis has determined that the objects retrieved are of exotic origin, non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial or unknown origin, based on the vehicle morphologies and material science testing, and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. Now, this is pretty interesting because I think, yeah, there's a lot of technology that we should have that we don't. And I think that can be clear. If you ever look into something, you want to go down a deep rabbit hole that I think is extremely interesting. That is Nikola Tesla. Now, we know the name Tesla primarily because of the e-cars and Elon Musk, because he named his company after Tesla. And Tesla has, I think, the most patents ever patented. What's the word? Um, and some incredible stuff. I think he was the founder of AC Power, or was it DC Power? Anyway, I didn't really study Nikola Tesla going into this podcast. Apologies, but incredible stuff. I mean, he had this thing that supposedly you could point at an object and it would make the object disappear. Now, do I believe all of this stuff? No, but I think surely some of it is true, and some of what Nikola Tesla created was taken by the government and hidden from the people. Now, Tesla was known to also be someone who was interested in other forms of energy. Now, that being from electricity, from wind, I think from lightning, etc. And it would make sense, and of course, that some of the stuff was hidden back in the day when the world was being taken over in large part by those who controlled the oil reserves. Now, that's not that big of a conspiracy theory to say that, okay, the powers that be, the Rochesters, the Rothschilds, etc., those who owned the means to control the world based on where energy was created, would not want an alternative energy to be, put out to the public. Now, that just makes sense. Now, you can believe it or not. I don't honestly care. But Tesla unquestionably created things that would at least should at least make us consider the fact that there are other ways of creating energy that we do not have in the public sphere. Now, that being the case, I think we can, go outside just saying energy and go to, okay, what about other types of craft? Now, again, I don't know this because it's a lot of hidden secret technology, but my opinion of these quote unquote UFOs is that they are government projects. And then these government projects probably come a lot from Tesla, maybe from some other geniuses who created some forms of devices that we can't understand, that what we see, the combustion engine, now the gasoline, diesel, these engines that work with no, I guess it's not combustion, the 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 piston powered engine, whatever it's called. Sorry, I'm not a mechanic, guys, but whatever this is called, this is kind of how our minds imagine how you create energy, in a lot of ways, at least with our transportation. Now we have the electrical motors, which is a little bit different, of course, and so that broadens our idea of, wow, this is something totally new, mind blowing. Well, it's actually probably fairly sure that Tesla actually had this technology back in the 1920s and 30s. And if that's the case, then the government has had it for that long as well and have been able to build on it and to maybe make things that do they can perform stunts that we cannot in our minds imagine because we've never seen it. We can't understand it because we have not been given that, the ability to witness it, I suppose. So we can see a car driving down the road and say, wow, okay, it's nothing that special because we see it all the time. But someone 150 years ago would have said, "Whoa, aliens," because they would have understood, obviously. Back in the day, they thought driving, I think, 20 miles per hour was extremely dangerous for your health. So, these things, if you haven't seen it, then obviously that is something that is new for our brains and for our imaginations. And I think that is something that likely, surely the government has. Now, the extent to what they actually have it or what they actually have, I think is another question. And I don't honestly know. But to me, that makes a whole lot more sense than saying there is an external um existence, or there are people, or whatever you want to call them, aliens that exist outside of our earth. And I don't know the theology on the matter. I don't know if the church has really had much to say about it because I don't think they really needed to. And well, since aliens have started to, come to earth since what, the 1940s, there wasn't much said in 10 years before Pius XII died. And then of course we have not had a hierarchy of the church since 1958. So I don't know what they would say on the matter. I would be very curious what the church would say on the matter. Now, obviously, if aliens exist, then they would, if they are sentient beings with souls, then Christ, of course, would have had to have died for them as well. So there's a whole lot of different things that go into it that I don't know. I can't comment on because I'm not studied on the matter and I don't really want to say. But to me, again, my opinion being, it would make a whole lot more sense if it is just the government, with technology that we can't understand, that's not, in the public. So it's something that when we see it, we say, it's a different, they're coming to blow us up. Well, it's actually just, your CIA down the street, messing with their new technology. And I think when you hear these stories of abduction, an alien abduction, and oftentimes they're, these people were abducted, and you had people with suit coats and whatnot, and white suit coats, and all these different things, and it's like that totally sounds like something the CIA would have done. And I know many people out there like, our government would never have done that. Have you read some of the stuff the CIA and our government did? Let's see, Operation Paperclip, Operation Mockingbird, Operation, what's the one where they poison people on purpose? Um, Tuskegee, I think it's called, something like that. And these things that have been made known to the public, not conspiracy theories. Go look them up yourselves. They're crazy, and they have been, they've been released to the public because I think they were 70 years ago or whatever it is that documents are supposed to be released. Which JFK was supposed to be released, but Donald Trump didn't. Interesting. So that's another. I know I'm going off track here, but Donald Trump was supposed to release the JFK files, and he didn't. Makes you think. So if it was just a one person killer, Oswald just shooting from the library, don't you think he could have just released them without a problem? Probably, right? I mean, probably would have been released 30, 40 years ago, but they haven't been because, well, probably because something that the government really, really, really doesn't want you to know, which is probably that the American government actually had their president killed. Anyway, off topic, back to aliens. Now, aliens, again, in my opinion, don't exist. I don't see, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense in what I understand of God's plan and God's creation. If you read the Bible, there's nothing said about something outside of this earth. Now, God made the heavens and the stars, but as far as I understand, the heavens and the stars were created to to make the people, the progeny of Adam and Eve, the fallen mother and father of our race, to make them appreciate God's glory and God's splendor, and the infinity of what God can do, because God is, all knowing and all doing. He can do everything he wants. So I think that idea of why would God do this if there doesn't exist anything outside of it is like, well, because God wants us to understand that God can do anything. Because you look up into the stars and you see the wonderful universe and the beauty of his creation. You say that was all created so that we can understand that God is almighty. Now, again, this is just my understanding of it. I'm not a theologian. This is just my opinion. Now, again, that being the case, my opinion being, aliens is, again, it's kind of like as much of a leap as saying that we evolved from apes, and the apes evolved from dogs, and dogs from birds, and birds from fish, and fish from slime in the mud, without any there's like zero actual evidence of those things that exist, the in between creatures that must have existed as these things became, the sludge became a fish, and a fish became a dog, and a dog became an ape, and an ape became a man, and they didn't just, boom, and that happened. Of course it couldn't have happened. So, that being the case, there had to have been things in between. And that's a big leap to say, oh, well, we just haven't found it yet, because blah, yeah, creationism, icky. So Lucy the ape, which I think has been proven to have been a hoax. So anyway, so, these things that the world pushes on us to be clear and sure, and absolutely, no, come on, of course this is the case, evolution is sure, you idiots, you old-fashioned traditionalist morons who think that the earth is 6,000 years old. Don't get me started down that whole line of, now, young earth theory. Again, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to get strung up, but the idea that the earth is 5 billion years old, because why again? Because someone measured a rock that jiggled a certain amount of times, and then they measured a mountain and it jiggled a certain amount of times, and so that means it's 8 billion years old. I don't think anyone actually understands science anymore, to be honest. It is an absolutely impossible thing to measure. We cannot measure the elements that have, had an effect on the earth, on the rocks, on, all these things that they say that they know. They take a telescope and they look at a star and they say, that star was found, that came to existence 6 billion years ago. And, little Kevin says, oh, how do you know? Because the science. Yeah, garbage. Anyway, I know I'm going totally crazy today. Too much coffee, perhaps. Vielleicht. I'm trying to say. I'm about to say the German word. Anyway, and I think these things all wrap in together with aliens. Is this idea again of trying to get us away from the original truths of the Gospels and of the Bible. And the things that we should know. Like we've been taught these things, and when you start to doubt what comes from the Bible, and you start to say, well, Genesis doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you consider evolution, and well, maybe Moses was just kind of dumb, and he's just trying to tell people what they wanted to hear, and yeah, this is exactly what the devil wants. The devil wants us to question everything. He wants us to see aliens and evolution and the Earth being 8 billion years old, and he wants us to take that, and he wants it to make us consider everything and to doubt everything, and to reconsider all of our previously considered faith, the things that we believe to be true, Bible being one of them. If we can't believe that the Bible is true, then why do we believe anything? And I think this is another really good point. What do we believe? Do we believe what, we know to be the word of God, the divine, inspired by the Holy Ghost word of God in the Bible, by our faith? We can't know that personally. I don't know it. I wasn't there when Moses wrote the Bible, Genesis, or whatever else. But my faith says that is the truth. Should we believe that, or should we believe, the scientists and the Air Force operatives when they say, "Well, we've found evidence that aliens absolutely exist because there are motor vehicles that we don't understand and little gray people inside them." What do you believe? Let's really consider it. I mean, really. And I think again, a lot of people don't want to talk about these things because they make you sound like a little bit crazy. And that's actually one of the crazier things now, that the whole alien topic is getting more and more out in the public. Back 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. It was much more of a taboo subject. And now it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I saw aliens. Oh, a guy in the military saw them, so it must be true. And I'm not even saying these people didn't see these things. Maybe some well regarded person in the military did see something, and it just belongs to the government. Of course, they have things they're not telling us about. That's proven by history. I mean, all the time they do things that we find out 50 years later, like, wait, what? What did you do? You brought Nazis to work for NASA to forward our space program, and you didn't even put them in prison or anything? Ugh. True story, by the way. So there's a lot of things that we don't know that are so. Our government doesn't tell us the truth. And the media doesn't either. So if the media is promoting it, and I actually, again, like I said, I like Matt Walsh. Actually, in general, like his opinions. I listen to him. Doesn't mean I take everything he says as the truth. And I think that's something we got to remember, that even if it's someone we quote unquote trust, we have to, you know, bounce it off of our own judgment, our own learning, our own sense. Just because Matt Walsh, a guy who I generally like, says something doesn't mean that it means I believe it. It goes with anybody. The only thing that we can be certain of is the teaching of the Catholic Church, because that is guarded by infallibility when it is actually the Catholic Church. And see, that's another great point. We have to know what the Catholic Church can and can't teach, right? Of course. If someone pretending to be Pope says that it's fine to divorce and remarry and that sin is subjective, well, I have to be able to say that cannot be true. And we have to be able to say that about a lot of things. And it goes back, as many of my topics do, to the idea of education. How do we think? When you hear something, do you say, "Yes, Mr. Expert, thank you. Yes, Mr. Military Man, I trust you"? Or do you say, based on my education and based on what I have learned and the way that I have learned to think and to comprehend reality, theology, truth, does it make sense or does it not? And sometimes we can't say. We don't always have an answer. And that's another misconception in our time, that we have to have a short answer for everything. It's just not true. But sometimes we can say, no, this is true, or no, it's not. In my mind, aliens cannot be. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit in what I consider to be God's plan, to be the biblical plan, biblical history. I'm not saying you can't believe it. I don't know that. Maybe a priest can tell me. Just my opinion. Anyway, that's what we wanted to cover today. I appreciate you all being here for this, whatever we're going to call it. I guess we'll call it a little slice of Kevin today. Let me know what you think about that. I'm really not sure. I don't want to boost my own ego all that much. It's one of those funny things that, going off topic now, when I do these things, I enjoy them because I like talking. Probably I like to hear my own voice. But I just like to have these conversations, and I like to talk about these things. I love to hear the comments. I like to hear what you think of my opinions because I think that's, I don't know, it's enjoyable. I think that's how we should do things. And if you disagree with them and an idiot, maybe, could be. I'm willing to hear that. I think the important thing is that we're not just letting them control these things, and not just letting them talk about these things. Even them being Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh now works for a big company that's run by Ben Shapiro and another guy who I don't even know what religion he is, but Ben Shapiro, we all know what he belongs to. We all know he's not only not Christian, he's anti-Catholic, surely. Doesn't mean he's wrong in all of his opinions. But I think we should have these conversations, and I would love for you guys to reach out to me if there's things you want to talk about. Doesn't have to be aliens. Give me whatever. Let me know. Reach out to me. Maybe you can hop on one of these short shows or do a short segment or something. You do an interview. We're always looking for more material. Material. We're always looking for good topics, and we're always looking for you to be more involved. So email me at kevin89davis, gmail.com, kevin8989davis@gmail.com. And yeah, follow me on Twitter, Kevy Gillikin at Gmail. Kev, just at Kevy Gillikin. That's KEVVYGILLIKI. And I'm also on Facebook. I think that's about it. I don't do a whole lot of other social media. Come find me. Let me know what you want to talk about. We'll see what we can do. Let me know if you appreciate these segments. It's not like, again, I'm an expert on the matter, but I do like talking about it, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Until next time, guys, or until the alien invasion. God bless.